I will say this. You always feel better after you do it, no matter what.
Yeah.
So, the anticipation kills you, right? And it's going to keep killing you until you do it.
Right. All right, hello everybody. Welcome to the show. This is the What You Don't Hear podcast. It's a life podcast, it's a story podcast, it's a bit of an open journal dive into people's lives as I sit and I uncover the real story behind my guest's journey, finding out what makes them who they are, digging into the parts of their story that we otherwise wouldn't get to hear. I'm your host. My name is Ross Tyson. I'm a creative of many kinds, a maker of many things, and as you probably guessed, one of those things I do is podcasting, as I bring you a couple different shows at this point. And honestly, here's a reminder real quick that if you do want to check something else out, I do an improv comedy podcast also. It's called Whose Life Is It Anyway? It's like this show, but imagine the guest's life story is completely made up, and there's improv games and a lot of messy chaos surrounding the story. So yeah, honestly, I never talk about that show on here for some reason, and I probably should, because I want you to like that one as well. So yeah, if you're looking for a quick half hour of funny nonsense, go check it out. It's on whatever platform that you're listening to this show on right now. But I, of course, do indeed want you to check out this episode right here, right now, because this week I sit down with a good friend of mine, a talented friend of mine. His name is Will Deely, and I got him to sit down for this and tell his story and share his music-filled journey right here on the podcast. But before we dig into that and get to know Will in a way that most of us probably haven't before, you know how it goes at this point. I'm going to tell you about a couple awesome supporters of this show. And one of them, honestly, speaking of music, a very fitting sponsor for this week's episode, someone Mr. Deely is rather familiar with, because this show is sponsored in part by Ingram Audio. So, musicians, producers, music makers of any kind, this next part is for you. Ingram Audio wants you to spend less time mixing your music and more time just actually having fun making it. Because, well, their goal is to create unique, user-friendly plugins for musicians and creatives of any skill level. Truthfully, it doesn't matter whether you're a professional or a hobbyist just trying to write your next jam. Ingram Audio creates products to make the creative process run smoothly so that writing can be less stressful and just more fun. From drum libraries to mix templates and MIDI loop packs, they have you covered. They just recently launched a brand new product called the Producer Kit. The Producer Kit is an all-new drum library that's mix ready for you right out the box, the digital box, that is. It's got samples that have been mixed to perfection, allowing you to just dive right in and get to work, hop in, choose a mix preset, and you're good to go. It's for real that easy. So if you want more info on that Producer Kit or any of their other products, because of course, yes, there is more, if you want to check it all out for yourself, hop over to ingramaudio.co for all the info and purchase options you need. And while you're there, be sure to download the free one-shot kit that they have over there available to download. Again, all of that over at ingramaudio.co. We are also supported by our friends over at Promo West Productions, because the music talk is going to keep going. This is a very music-filled episode, and we all know that talking about Columbus's music scene is one thing, but experiencing it live, well, that's another. So if you feel like going to a show, if you want to know what concerts are going down here in Columbus, check out one of these upcoming concerts brought to you by Promo West Productions. They've got Steven Sanchez at Newport Music Hall on February 23rd, Kimbra at Newport Music Hall on Friday, February 24th, Zoso, the ultimate Led Zeppelin experience, going down at Newport on Friday, March 10th, and then the Dropkick Murphys at Kemba Live on March 13th. So if you want to grab tickets, you can jump over to axs.com, or as always, for more information on these or any of their upcoming shows, you can find all the info that you need over at promowestlive.com. We are also supported by our friends over at River and Rich. Now, if you've ever been down in the Franklinton area, you're over at 400 West, Land Grant, Chrome Edge, or something like that, you've probably noticed that strip of buildings across the street that houses things like Maker's Social, One Line Coffee, Roy G. Biv, and the brand new wonderful Franklinton Market. Well, that is River and Rich, and they're making space in Franklinton for it to somehow get even cooler. So they're making a lot of cool space down here in the area. And one of those ways is helping you answer the question of, does your apartment meet your lifestyle? Do you wake up every day just being stoked in your environment and just having it be one that you love living in? Well, you can probably find that feeling at River and Rich, because at this place, you'll find yourself living a colorful life that's more than just the color of the buildings. River and Rich brings together quality apartments, desirable amenities, and a vibrant artistic community. It's located right here in Franklinton. River and Rich offers 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, and townhouse style apartments with open floor plans, oversized windows, which are honestly very, very dope, and modern finishes. The amenities include a huge 24/7 gym, a heated pool, a fully stocked coffee bar, a secure package delivery room, pretty much everything you would need. But it doesn't stop at the building. River and Rich embraces and connects with the art-filled Franklinton community as a whole. With local art and murals featured all throughout the community, River and Rich is both a place to go home to and is also kind of becoming a piece of living art itself. So if that sort of environment sounds like one that you want to live in, well, you can, obviously. So go check it out. They're offering both guided and self-guided tours, so go view an apartment anytime. You can visit their website at riverandrichcolumbus.com for more information. Also, check this out. Because you listen to this podcast, I'm going to help you get a freaking apartment, because now new applicants can receive up to half off their security deposit if you use the code WYDHPOD. So, again, for more information, please contact River and Rich directly. Certain restrictions might apply. Hop over to riverandrichcolumbus.com to get things going and go join the colorful life that's happening at River and Rich. So let's make this happen. Let's get to it. A big thank you to all of those lovely, lovely sponsors for being true supporters of this show. And now it's time to get to the story. It's time to hear the story of Will Deely. So here it is, episode 78 of What You Don't Hear. Hey, I'm Will.
Do you know what
Thanks for being here.
My favorite part of being on a podcast is knowing that you're going to edit out the long spaces in between talking, so it'll sound like I'm really concise, right?
Do you want to know the funny thing about that?
You don't do that?
Yes, I don't do that. I don't do that. So whatever we talk about, unless there's something really, really specific that we want cut out, it just stays.
Oh, okay.
We just have a conversation and it just goes. Just like any day we'd be sitting in.
The timing is just natural.
The timing is there. Damn. We're just good. This is a real test to see how well you and I converse. How good of friends we actually are.
That's fair.
That's essentially what this is. But it's going to be just like all those days at Chipotle.
Right.
We get Chipotle.
Just under the surgical lights instead.
Just under lighting and cameras and microphones, and it's being recorded and shared with everyone. Well, it sounds like we're prepped.
Globally.
It sounds like we're ready to talk to the people around the world. Will, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Ross.
I'm stoked that we're making this happen. I feel like you and I have tried to align schedules to have this conversation a few times at this point.
Yeah.
I feel like we've talked about it a little bit, right?
Yeah.
I also feel like early on in this show, I asked you to be on, and I feel like you were not as into the idea. Not in like a negative way, like, fuck no, like I don't want to do that. But more so like, I got the vibe that you were kind of like, why does someone want to talk to me on a podcast?
Yeah,
like,
I think, yeah. And honestly, that's something I feel like I've battled with even up until walking through the door here today.
Okay.
Not that I'm like nervous to talk to you, but you know, I feel like it's a pretty introspective type of podcast, obviously. Mm-hmm. And then the highlight reel is just all bangers. So like, you know, you go to the podcast Instagram and it's just people laying down wisdom and knowledge left and right. And I'm like, man,
yeah, but see,
what am I going to say?
All that wisdom and knowledge though is dropped amongst all these people dumping out their life stories.
I get it.
That's all you got to do, right? When we were talking earlier and you were like, any prep I need to do for this? I'm like, just know your life that you've experienced and be ready to talk about that.
No doubt.
So I am glad that even though you were thinking about it until the moment you walked into the studio, you were still down.
Oh yeah.
Because I wanted you on the show for a minute.
I made a really nice quesadilla and really thought about it before
Over
driving here.
Good.
And Yeah, so here we are.
So you didn't make the quesadilla while you were driving. You made it before.
It was before.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a sequence. Yeah.
Okay, great. If you were making a quesadilla while you were driving here and thinking about this, I feel like you're way more prepared than what you thought you were, honestly.
Well, great. Let's get into it.
Well, you had a quesadilla earlier. There's no Chipotle sitting in front of us, but I think you and I know how to talk to each other at this point. But the interesting thing is, obviously, like, you and I have been friends for a handful of years now. I don't even remember how that really started.
You know what's funny is my girlfriend was asking me that before showing up here. She's like, how'd you know Ross? Are you from Pickerington, where I grew up?
Yeah.
And I was like, no.
Yeah.
No, he's not. and then I was like, honestly, I think I know where you're from, but really it's just like I've always known you through like adjacent people, and then we became friends, sort of.
Yeah.
You know?
Was it Maddie?
Yeah.
Probably an introduction through...
Maybe. Well, but even like in high school, I feel like you were involved with bands and were posting online a lot. Maybe that thing kind of like that.
That's what I can trace it back to.
Yeah, same.
Because you and I never met until I moved to Columbus.
Right. But I already knew who you were by then.
And I knew who you were before that, because I feel like this was way back when I was doing the Unsigned Ohio thing.
That's exactly what I was thinking of.
Place Your Bets, right?
Yeah.
Weren't you in that band?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So
yeah, that was like in high school. Yeah.
Yeah. So I remember doing whatever cross-promotional blog stuff that Unsigned Ohio was doing at that point in time, which I think is what made me familiar with you. But I can't connect outside of Maddie.
Like
I don't
the first
know
time
we
like hung out or whatever.
Because there's a part of me that feels like it was maybe like photos or video or something like that. It was like a more
probably started off that way.
Let's work together, and then.
But you probably were already living with Matt.
Yeah, for sure.
By then,
For sure. Yeah.
So
I don't think any of that happened until I was living up here in the giant house on 4th Street.
Yes.
So yeah, I was trying to think of that earlier today. I was like, I don't even know when I met Will, like whatsoever. But since then, we've obviously done a ton of stuff together.
Yeah.
We get nice little Chipotle dates once every like 6 months to catch up on each other's lives. And now we're here making a podcast.
Here we are.
The point being, out of all of those conversations, it has usually always centered around like the creative stuff that we're doing or band stuff or whatever it is. I don't feel like we've clearly ever really sat down and been like, okay, Will, who are you? Where do you come from? What's all the things outside of like what's going on right now?
In this immediate moment.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So you grew up in Pickerington.
I did.
So honestly, take me back. What's growing up like? Let's dive in. And more so, when does music even become a thing? Because of course, I mean, that's what I know you for.
Right.
Everything we've ever been involved in.
And it's my life completely. So yeah, definitely. Yeah. Grew up in Pickerington, kind of just from ages 0 till like 10 years old. Normal kid, well, normal person still, but normal kid, played sports, whatever. And then like, I think 4th grade or something, my parents got divorced. And then, so there was like a little bit of turbulence in my childhood there. But then I met my now stepbrother, who is 6 years older than me, who played guitar, and thought he was cool. He was into punk music and showed me a lot of stuff. And then, so that's kind of like when I started. And then, so mainly like up until then, no music, just baseball and football and basketball. And then, parents get divorced. Mom moves to a new neighborhood where we're the first house built. And then when I go to my dad's, my older stepbrothers teach me how to play guitar. So then when I go back to my mom's house, there's no one to hang out with. So I'm just playing the guitar and listening to Blink-182 and Green Day and just getting it started.
So you got to have kind of that music thing at both houses then. It wasn't like, I get to do it over here. And then when I'm over here, I'm just like, I don't know what to do. Like,
yeah. So I think it was just something that like it was offered to me like by like my stepbrother, and my dad was like, that's something. I feel like as a parent, you're like, get into whatever you're going to get into, or like find out what you like. But I don't think anyone like thought that it would stick, because no one in my immediate family was a musician or anything like that. So
I was going to ask that, like, does that outside of obviously stepbrother,
right?
There was nobody else that was like, we're a musical family.
No,
pass it down.
No, absolutely not. But I mean, my family loves music, like and rock music and guitar music and stuff like that. So I grew up. My dad loved Van Halen. My mom loved Def Leppard and Fleetwood Mac, and then my older sisters. I was like kind of during the big boom of mall punk rock, of like, you know, Fall Out Boy, Dashboard Confessional, Blink-182, all that kind of was really taking off. So then I as like a 10-year-old, I'm just like taking it all in. My older stepbrother was like into more like underground bands, and then also like 90s punk, like NoFX and The Offspring and Green Day and all that. So I had access to so much music and like the support to like whatever music I wanted, you know?
Yeah. So it wasn't a thing where it was like, oh, he's playing the guitar again.
No,
like,
yeah.
Like, focus on your grades.
Well, yeah. So yeah. Didn't get good grades, that's for sure back then. But I think it was just like, I don't know. My parents got divorced, and it, as clean of a break or whatever as it was, and how good co-parents they were through the years, it still is like something that I think I look back on it more and was like, I think I was going through some stuff. Like I was like 10 years old, and I used to have a neighborhood full of friends, and now I live by myself. Like, and there's no one to hang out with and throw the football with or whatever. So it's just me and my guitar and trying to learn Dumpweed or something by Blink.
Right. Well, that's even what I was going to ask, is like going, like time traveling back into that 10-year-old brain. Like, can you now identify? I mean, you basically just explained it.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Is that the identifier of like, okay, yeah, it wasn't the worst split of the family that there could have been. Yeah. Pretty good. Like, all right, as positive as it can be. But you were now like, oh, okay, cool. Now I have this avenue that I can go into. And do you feel like it was it distraction? Was it just something that you were like, hey, this just is something fun that I can do for me, and I don't have to worry about these other things? Like,
I don't know. I think it was something that I was pretty good at pretty quickly, or like at least back then for how young I was. Mm-hmm. And honestly, yeah, it was like I loved skateboarding, and I loved music like already, because I was, you know, obsessed with like the Madden soundtrack, which had like Thrice and Blink and then obviously like the Tony Hawk games and stuff. So like I already liked music a lot. And then you know, those days where, you know, we're in this new development of houses, and you look outside and we don't even have grass yet because it's that new, you know?
Yeah, okay.
And so and it's not like I really like, I don't think in the moment I was like, man, I can't wait to play the guitar today. It was just sort of like, this is kind of what felt like was the only thing there for me at times.
Yeah.
Or it was just something to do. And yeah, so, you know, it's honestly, to me, I think it's amazing that I stuck with it, because I feel like it's hard to kind of stick with something like that, especially when you're on your own. So
I also think, especially when you're a kid, because I can think back to like everything as a kid that I went through, like that was a phase.
Yeah,
you know
right.
what I mean? Like now it's a joke of like, it's just not a phase, but you know, but like when I think back to all the different things that like as a kid, I was like, oh my God, I want to do this. Oh my God, I want to do this. It was like skateboarding. Then it was like motocross for a little bit. Then it was like all these different things that I was like, this is going to be my life. But I never really stuck with any of them. You know what I mean? Some of them pop back up later.
Sure.
But I think it is super easy for sure as a kid of like, oh, there's just fun things that I'm doing. So what was it you feel now that made music stick with you? Like, because you could have just sat for a year and been like, oh, maybe now mom's development or the neighborhood is like better now, and there's like kids here, and you could have just found another thing to distract yourself with. Mm-hmm. What do you feel like made you stick with that as like, oh, this might be my thing?
Yeah, well, I think honestly, now that I think about it, that's around the time I met Alex, who played music with me for decades at this point.
Yeah, okay.
And so we were starting at the same time, and we had a couple other friends, and we were the only people in our grade that like did that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, It was just us. And then it was funny because we, especially, well, me and him specifically, we were like, we're obviously the same age, and like our older siblings were the same age, listening to the same music. So we're just getting fed like we think our siblings are cool. So we're just like stealing CDs from them and sharing it with each other. And like, yeah. So I think that's kind of, because I think that's a big driving force for kids too, is like, what are their friends doing?
Yeah.
And so, you know, my childhood was just filled with playing baseball and playing the guitar, and then as I got older, I became more passionate about the guitar and less about baseball, until the point where I'm like, well, something's gotta give here. Like, you gonna do this or you gonna do that, or
is that like high school years when
because
that's when I gave up baseball. Like, I loved baseball growing up, and then as soon as I was a high schooler, I was like, why do I want to do that? Like, what else could I do?
Well, I think the commitment becomes bigger because my family is like a pretty big sports family. At least my direct siblings were softball, baseball, basketball, whatever. And and we were into it. Like, we played like travel like baseball all through my early, like my 10 to 12 and 13 to 14, whatever. And then you get to high school, and Pickerington's it's like a D1 sports school. So then it's sort of like, it's more time of the year. Also, you were naturally good at it, and now you got to start working. It's kind of in that range of your life where, like, when you're naturally good when you're young, the people that get bigger than you and stronger than you and are working at it, they start to get better than you,
right. Yeah.
And then I remember, like, because I think my last year, I played up until my sophomore year, and like around then is like when then you move to like the full size field.
Yeah.
And I was a pitcher. So that's when you go back from, I think it was 54 feet to 60, which doesn't sound like a big difference. Yeah. But then when I hadn't practiced throwing from 60 feet and I'm throwing it, and I'm like skipping it on the way, I was like, man, this is taking way more arm too. But yeah, but it came back to was just, I always just would rather have, at that point I was playing in bands and stuff, and I always was just thinking about playing in bands and like writing songs, or how am I going to do this or that, or have someone make a MySpace layout or something, or where am I going to play a show or whatever.
Yeah. So what was first band? And like, walk me through even like, because I know you're about to preface it with like, first band was like, we jammed the garage and it sucked. And like, but obviously, but like, what is even like, do you remember the feeling of like getting into a band? Because I think there's a big difference between jamming in your room by yourself. Maybe you've got Alex around. Okay, dope. But I feel like there's a difference between that and then, oh shit, like I'm doing like the actual thing. Like I'm in a band now. Like there's got to be a feeling that comes with that.
Yeah, I think. Well, yeah. So from like 10 to 12 or 10 to 13, we were playing in Alex's basement, and we sucked really bad. And we played the town shows, and we got it together to play some covers for the town shows, which hilarious. We played. Someone has a video of this somewhere. I forget who. Someone like sent me a video. I was like, oh my God. But the set list was fire. We played TNT. We played Wild Thing. We played Cute Without the E from Taking Back Sunday. Someone allowed us to play that in a middle school. And then we played like another song. I forget what it was, but we stole a riff from a song that we liked, and then we just didn't sing on it and just made it a different song.
Smoke on the Water, probably.
Yeah, something
sick
like
riff.
That. Yeah, something iconic like that.
Right.
But I think like the first time, like after that, we started like figuring out how to write songs better, and I think a pivotal moment for us was like we did like a battle of the bands at a church, and like we had like 2 songs that we wrote that were like completed songs that like had some sort of formula, and it was good enough for the time, and we won the battle of the band. So and we were like, oh wow, it feels good when people like you, like when people like your music. So like that, or you see people like enjoying themselves playing, right? So we did that. That was big. And then another big moment that I can always picture in my head is like we played like a local show at the Newport in like 8th grade. And it was like a festival show of all local bands. And and there was like a few hundred people there throughout the day. It was like a long day, And we played first at like 1 p.m. on Friday or something. But it's at the Newport, and you're about to play, and you're getting ready, and you're all nervous, and then all of a sudden like the guy goes, when the lights go off, you guys got to go on. And we're like, all right. So we're just like nervously waiting, and then the lights go off, and you see nothing but like the sponsor banner things lit up, and I was like freaking out. Like you just like, holy shit.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah. But it was awesome. And then you go out there, and we played every song like 700 miles an hour, and it was like. And ever since then, it was just like, wow, how do I do that again? Like that feeling is just, that's just what stuck with me forever, you know?
Yeah, okay, so that was like an unlock moment of like,
for sure.
Oh, now I've gotten a taste. How do I keep doing this more and more and more?
Yeah, it was insane. So, yeah, it was awesome to have that, and like the support of all of our families and stuff back then. Because I mean, back then it's like we're playing in Alex's basement, and his parents are putting up with our bullshit for hours, playing loud, and his dad was like teaching us. He was like a music guy, so he taught us how to play different songs and
That's cool.
figure stuff out, and then like fix our instruments and all that, and then would drive all the gear to the shows and all of that. And I don't think any of that's possible. Like I think about that now a lot. Now I'm just like, they could have just said no, and I would have just never have gone through this whole thing. So.
Right. So into like high school years, obviously like when everybody's about to graduate, there's a bunch of decision making of like, all right, cool. Am I entering the real world? What's that look like? I'm about to be an adult.
Oh, yeah.
But also I have this like, it's like this weird transition from like, you can do silly kind of childhood things, quote unquote, but then also you need to start making real decisions. So are you, I'm assuming, in bands like through end of high school, out of high school?
That's Place Your Bets era.
Okay, so that's when Place Your Bets pops up.
Yeah.
Okay. So is that, maybe dumb question, is Place Your Bets like first sort of like real go at a band? Is it still that like, and I only ask that because, again, me, person who didn't know who any of you were at all, finds about you through the internet, and I don't remember, like, yeah, we can joke about it, but at that point in time, I don't remember the music being that bad, like, cool pop punk, like...
It was probably, like, the first time we ever really, like, calculatedly, if that's a word, like, tried.
Yeah.
And it was, like, at the end of high school, and, like, it was, like... Probably everyone that does bands goes through this, especially if you don't have a lot of musicians in your town. It's like the similar group of guys, just with a different band name.
Just tried a little harder this time.
Like, I need to get excited. Let's change the band name.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I need something new and exciting to do here.
I mean, we did that countless times. But yeah, and it's so funny you bring that up because I haven't thought about this in a while. But maybe you can. I don't know what your experience is like here, and maybe you can tell me. But senior year is like just pure anxiety for people that, at least for me, because I didn't have, like, by high school I wasn't like getting terrible grades, but I wasn't like really caring about like, I got to make sure I get all my Spanish credits so I can, qualify to whatever. So like, but that senior year, everyone's like, I'm applying here, and I'm going here, and I'm going here, and I'm like, I don't know, man.
Yeah, okay. See, for me, I was like, and I don't mean this in the way of like, I had a plan. I knew I was going to blah, blah, blah. But I was like, luckily, I was sure that I didn't want to go to college. And I was very sure that I didn't want to have what I will call a day job forever. Mm-hmm. So even though I was still doing those things, like I didn't just dive in right out of high school and was like, I'm going to be an entrepreneur, like whatever.
Right.
But so when I was coming to those decisions, I was oddly like calm with it all. Mm-hmm. Like I was hearing people be like, I'm going to go to this whatever college, or I'm going to go into this work field. And I was sitting and I was like, man, I don't want to do any of that. I don't necessarily know what I'm going to do, but that was also, I feel like at the end of high school was when I was doing the Unsigned Ohio stuff.
Right.
And I think not too long after that, I don't know if you remember this or if we were even friends during this time. I did a clothing line for a while because that was the cool thing to do.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
So like those are the things I immediately dove into. And yes, I had like normal jobs to do all that stuff. So it was like there wasn't really a direction that I was on, but I was like cognizant enough that I was like, okay, I just want to start doing the things that I want to do. Mm-hmm. And at that point in time, it was a lot of just like stuff within the music industry.
Right.
And that's when I started like teaching myself design and like all that sort of stuff. Which I think about now, and like those designs were so bad back then. But yeah, so that was kind of like my experience with that. I was oddly like, you
were pretty well within yourself there.
Yeah, and I also somehow had the foresight to be like, I don't want to go to college and have all this debt to go do something that like I don't want to do. Mm-hmm. Like I still was even like, I know how much I didn't care about school, so why would I go to something I have to pay a lot of money for that I'm probably not going to care about?
Right.
To maybe get a job that I might not get, or don't even want to do. So you're sitting and you're saying like, yeah, I don't really.
Yeah. So you know how they're always, they're like, I mean, it wasn't like the pressure's on, what are you going to do? It was like, everyone's trying to get it out of you somehow or another. Like, well, what are you interested in? Or what do you want to get into or whatever? And it was like, well, like I love music, but like, I'm not like in band. I'm not in show choir. I'm not in like that kind of music. And, I was interested in like recordings and stuff like that, but mainly just to sort of write songs, not really to work or
to
something.
Gain the skill.
Yeah.
Like you weren't like, I need to come up.
Yeah.
Become a
I mean, all I
producer.
wanted to do was just be in a band. I was just like, especially then I was like, there's bands around town that are going on tour and stuff. And back then I was like, man, that just looks like the shit. Like that's all I want to do is play shows and whatever. And, or like play Warped Tour, right? That was like,
right, yeah,
especially that. I was like, that was like the dream. I was like, man, if I could just do that, whatever. And so I think I figured out, because it was like, when you look at like schools for music stuff, like production and stuff like that, I don't want to say it's like a ripoff, but there's a lot of schools that it's just so expensive. It's like astronomical. But we found one. We found like it's the recording workshop in Chillicothe. It's like a 9-week thing. And like my grandma like gave me money for my senior gift or whatever, to do that. And so that was like my thing. I was like, all right, this is what I'm doing. I'm going here. And if I want to continue that, I can go to school for it somewhere or whatever. Luckily, it didn't really go that far. Like I went there and I did it and completed it. But by then I found someone, or I started like playing music with other people that were trying to really go for it,
Right. Okay. So you kind of like de facto got to learn from them. Was it like, oh, I went to this course, I learned some things, but also I could just learn it in real application with these other people? Or
it was like, so I did the course, and then I came out of the course, and like there was some studio that I was interning at, and I was working at like the movie theater. And then meanwhile, this guy from where I grew up, Spencer Sutherland, if you know, he's a singer.
I think I know of him through you,
yeah,
honestly.
cool, yeah. But he's done some awesome things over the years and continues to kill it. But he like needed a guitar player, and I was like, this isn't really kind of the music that I do, but I really just want to play. So I started, playing with him, and we did that. I kind of went all over the place with him for a few years, and then I started playing in this band called City Lights for a little while.
I forgot you were in City Lights.
Just it was like at the end, and they like needed a guitar player, and so I was just kind of picking up gigs anywhere I could, and then kind of and I did that with a country artist after, and that was another thing. I was like, I don't really do this, and it was like, do you want to play or not? And I was like, okay, yeah, I'm in.
Yeah, that's also the time frame that I think you and I officially became
friends.
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, it's like 2015-ish, right? So, and then after that, so anyway, for the college thing or whatever, I kind of I did that. Then before I was able to make a choice otherwise, I kind of found myself going down a path performing with these various different up-and-coming acts at the time.
Right.
And then, when that ends, that's when I kind of was like, well, there's nothing else to do, so I guess I have to do my own thing.
Yeah.
Or figure out something else.
Right. Okay, so before we dive into like you doing the solo stuff, what do you feel like the value was? Like, do you feel like you found more value by just doing the stuff than trying to like go directly learn it somewhere? Or are they equal to you? Like, are you like, oh no, thankfully I did this course and had the foundation built, and then also luckily I just got to start being in bands and
yeah, I mean, I think it's different for everybody, but for me, I think getting in that world, like the producing, recording side of it, kind of having no friends that did that or anything, like it got me started like with that.
Yeah.
And then also in turn, like helped me kind of communicate things I didn't even consider before with the technical stuff.
Right.
And then when you start doing like playing with bands and touring and all that, you just pick up stuff from different people And I think that's how you learn the most, because I think I've learned so much more from that than any schooling ever. So,
right.
you know?
So kind of silly question,
Yeah.
but I'm interested in how you answer it. Like, so any of these bands that you're joining, is there any part of you ever like, is your state of mind at that point in time, heck yeah, I just want to be in a band and do something? Or was your mindset ever, oh, maybe this is the thing? And I ask that not because I think you would specifically think that way, but I think it's very easy for musicians in general to think that way.
To like dive in.
To be like, I'm doing this thing right now, and heck yeah, this is it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Was that kind of where you were, or was it just like, hey, I'm along for the ride, and whatever chances I get, I want to take? Like,
yeah, I mean, I think it's, I don't know. I guess it's kind of both, right? Because like to get in, I'm sort of like, well, I'll give it a shot, but then when you're in on the chase or in the hunt of it, you're
committed.
You're just kind of are seeing, like, especially with like up and coming artists that have cool opportunities, and you're every day or there's a different milestone that you're approaching, and you're like, oh, once we do that, then maybe this, or we are about to accomplish, we just accomplished this crazy thing, so whatever. So yeah. A little bit of both, but yeah, definitely, I definitely dive in, like, with the commitment on that, for sure.
Right. During that time frame, was there like another, what I would call like a milestone moment for you? And I'm saying that comparatively to, that the show at the Newport, when you finally get to play and you're like, oh, cool, this is a feeling. Was there another feeling once you started being like more actively in these bands, playing way more shows, probably being involved a lot more in a community? Was there another moment for you, or does that like not come till later, or does the spark never show up again?
It does. It's hard to point to different. I think after high school, me and Spencer played a show at the Bluestone, and with, I forget who played, but it was a big show. Like there was, let's say, like 500 people there or something. Okay. We were opening for some band, and like that was the first time I ever played in front of, and it was like the pop world. So it's like kids are screaming, it's insane, they love it. Like, it's such an engaging show, and that was like the validation I felt like I needed after high school, to be like, all right, is this cool that I'm kind of ditching the education thing to literally just do what I like enjoy doing, you know?
Yeah.
So, and for a while, I think that was really hard, is like that kind of inner turmoil of those years for me, where now, I look back and I was like, oh man, I should have never thought about any of that, because it's not worth I think it's motivating in the moment, but like, it's not worth all the worry when you can just focus on what you're good at, and focus on what you want to do. And, they'll like you. They'll be all right. Know?
What is that inner turmoil?
Well, it's sort of like the fear of unknowing. Like, at the time, it was like, yeah, I'm getting to experience such cool things, and we're doing cool things. But it's like, I'm just a guitar player. Am I wasting my time? Should I get another skill? Should I be going to school? All my other friends are going to school and doing this and that, and whatever. So it's just like that kind of thing, where it's like, what am I making the right decisions, really? So
right.
So it kind of probably pulled me away from just enjoying it more. Because those years were awesome. I mean, they were fun. Like, those were great. There was really nothing to worry about other than whatever I was putting on myself,
Yeah, it's sort of like the cliche, like, you're living the good old days right now. Like,
yeah.
These are the moments that at some point you'll look back on and be like, oh, wow, it wasn't actually that bad. Like, that was actually pretty cool that I did that. Like,
yeah. So, and then as I kind of kept going, I realized I wanted to do something more creative for myself. I think later on, like, after I played for a couple artists and played some cool shows and did all that, but then you just go, well, maybe I want to write my own songs or do something. At that time, I was really trying to figure that out,
Were you getting to, in any of the other bands that you were in, were you sort of just like, hey, I'm like the live guitarist and I'm there? Were you getting to contribute to any songs at all?
Yeah.
Or were you not getting to scratch that itch that much?
Oh no, especially with music that wasn't like what I kind of grew up doing. Like pop music, I wasn't gonna write like a or country at the time, or but I didn't really have that desire either. It was just like I have a lot of things. I was writing songs on my own and like wanting to explore that too, but it was sort of in the off time or whatever.
Yeah, it was like on the back burner where you were like, I am just like stoked to be doing these things. I'm not super worried about it being my direct thing.
But during those, I will say this, during those years, they were crucial for me in like developing skills too. Because before, I'd never really been a singer, really. Like I was like always the second singer in a band playing a loud show where no one can hear me. I'm just like yelling in the mic, like, and I can hit some notes, but I'm not singing well or whatever. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But when I was playing early on, we played a lot of acoustic, and the guy needed harmonies, and I was like, all right, well, this is pretty like it's a lot of exposure of yourself because you're like just harmonizing with a great singer, and it's just you and an acoustic guitar, so you got to learn how to sing,
Yeah.
And so doing that like really took me from kind of being like a kid playing guitar, hollering in the background, to hey, like start to sing good, like really care about that, like start getting better.
I'm actually glad you brought that up because that was something I wanted to dig into, was like when you did actually, like you did start singing, all that sort of stuff. So it was in that time frame.
Yeah. That, and like I was in terrible physical shape in high school. Like, just because after I stopped playing baseball, I just didn't do anything. Like I just played guitar and video games and stopped skateboarding too eventually, and just gained like a good amount of weight and was just in bad shape. And then during those years, I don't know, something happened. Like I was just like, all right, well, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to be around this guy and he looks really good. I don't want to look like an eyesore or something.
Yeah.
Not that
I forgot about
it was
that.
It was more motivating, not like
Of
so
course.
self-deprecating at the time. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
But it really was just sort of like, dude, like be the guy, like come on, like.
When that's actually an interesting thing that I completely forgot about. When did you lose the weight?
It had to have been the year after high school.
Okay. So that's when that popped up, and you were like, "Hey, you know what? Let's just make this happen."
I was like,
I always forget that was a thing.
Yeah, and I think, and you probably can speak to this too, because when you kind of start getting around people that have healthy habits and stuff, it sort of radiates in a way, and you're just sort of like, what the hell am I doing? Like, let's go.
Right.
You know? And like, you just see people feeling good and doing that, and it's very motivating in a healtly way,
Yeah. Well, like, are you familiar with the sum of 5 theory?
No, I'm not.
The raised
Should
eyebrows, I would say. Once I explain it, you're going to be like, oh, that's not as crazy as I thought it was. The sum of 5 theory is like you are the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Okay.
So like it's exactly.
Then yes, I think I know this one.
But it's exactly what you're talking about, of like
Right.
the idea of like, okay, yeah, when you start being around people who are doing these sort of things, of course it's going to rub off on you in some way, and it's either going to motivate you to do that thing, or you could play the comparison game and all that sort of stuff. But usually it rubs off in a positive way, unless they're doing a bunch of shitty things.
I think it probably depends on how it comes to you, right?
Yeah, it works both ways.
But yeah, so in those years, all of that was happening. Also, I other than learning from my older brother, I never took guitar lessons or anything, and I had a good year and I was learning a lot. But then at that moment, like when I started playing pop music and stuff, and you start playing with professional like artists and you see their bands, and I'm like, oh, these guys have like guitar performance degrees. So I was like, I'm going to have to learn some stuff. So I started learning from a really good, a couple great teachers that were, like music, like Berkeley guitar grads or jazz guitar players and stuff. So in that year, I kind of developed those guitar playing skills and all that, which was massive for me too. So I really attribute a lot of growth to those years for sure, ability wise.
Right.
And then so yeah, all good for that. And then the songwriting and stuff came later, but
the following announcement has been paid for by the New World Order.
Oh, excuse me. Hopping in here real quick to tell you about a brand new sponsor for the show, Ope Cold Brew. It's cold brew that uses naturally processed ingredients with no preservatives or additives and roasted right here in Columbus. And guess what? You can get Ope delivered right to your door every Friday if you live in Columbus. Or you can do weekly or bi-weekly subscriptions, and if you do subscribe, you save 10%. Otherwise, they have 4 packs available for $20. So if you want to find out more, follow them at Ope Cold Brew or visit opecoldbrew.com to grab a 4-pack or set up your subscription. Ope, it's dang good cold brew.
Yeah.
So when you start diving into actually songwriting for yourself, because again, this is also when I become even more familiar with you.
Yeah.
We start actually kind of like working together, hanging out, all that sort of stuff. Is when you're doing the solo project.
Yeah.
So how does that come about? Is that just you being like, hey, you know what? I want to write some songs, or I've been dabbling here and there. Why don't I just go ahead and make something of it? And also, what was that transition like to go from like, cool, I'm in a band and someone else is kind of doing the thing and I'm here and I'm helping, but also, this is my thing now, which I also assume comes with like playing shows solo and stuff like that. Like, walk me through that.
Yeah. So it was kind of just what was left at the moment. Like, I stopped playing for other people for various reasons. But so then there was like, well, the guys I used to play in bands with are either not around anymore or they're in other bands or whatever. So it's just, you only got you know? And, I was inspired by a lot of solo artists and stuff. So I was like, well, okay, like, I loved City and Color and John Mayer and all that stuff. Kind of growing up and through my earlier, like my teenage years, my early 20s. But it was crucial then too, because I'd never played any of those shows like that or whatever, and that's hard. Like, and it was like intimidating. And it's funny is my buddy Chase Clymer, who was like, I like recorded a 5-song EP that was just acoustic, and just for fun or whatever, or that's just what I was doing right at the time. Those were the songs that I had been working on, and I was like, I'm just gonna record these and see what happens. And Chase was like, he was booking shows in Columbus at the time, and he was also I showed it to him because he was in City Lights, and just like a guy that, I don't know, he's like he was kind of like you, or just like an idea guy that's just like good guy to bounce stuff off of. But he was like, yeah, this is cool. He's like, you should play shows or whatever. And then he was booking at Donato's Basement, or wherever Bravo Artist was at the time.
Right.
And so early on, they would have shows like 2 or 3 times a week, and I would just go in there regardless of the show and play like as doors opened, or like, or play first, or like play before doors, like just like with people in the room, just to like do it, because you're just to like stop the shaking of the hands,
Really? Okay, I didn't know that.
Oh yeah.
I don't think I.
Well, I think the first one I ever did was with Maddie's band, Postmodern.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And which was awesome because friends were involved there, so it's not so intimidating. But yeah, it's like, that's like a specific, because it's all you you can't hide behind anything. So I started there, and that was huge, man. Like, because, from not really growing up as a singer or whatever to now, this is supposed to be the thing that you're chasing, is you being a singer.
Yeah. And not just the singer, but the front man, the person
this
who
is you.
Like, it's not just like, play the song, cool, somebody else talks while you're tuning and then getting ready for the next song. You're now like, so how's everyone's pizza tonight?
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
So those were big,
Can we talk about that for a second? Like, and I don't know if there's like some deeper thing there, but like, I didn't know that you took those steps. And even hearing that, I'm like, okay, that's kind of like a wild thing to go from, again, being the dude in the band to then taking the kind of random step of like, I've got some songs, I recorded them, all right, I guess I'll do this solo thing acoustic. Yeah. But to also put yourself in the position of going to shows, whether it's something that you perfectly fit for or whatever, just like you said, and also finding ways to like, I'm just going to play before doors while people are coming in, or I'm going to play during people just hanging out, waiting for the band to play or whatever. Like, I think that's a hugely valuable thing that honestly, me even hearing that, I'm like, I don't know if I would do that if I was in that position. Like, that's kind of a like, stick your neck out sort of thing.
At that point, it was like, I was really proud of the songs, and like I liked how I sounded on the record, and I had a couple friends that were saying, "Man, this is really cool." I had the vote of confidence, and what I was tired of was, and I just wanted to like be able to match that. Like I needed the confidence, and I was tired of not having it, and it is like you're up on the diving board, and you're like, you just gotta, but you know. I had been playing music for so long, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, this is like, if I'm going to be a musician, I gotta be able to do this. Like, I just gotta conquer this, and eventually, I hope one day my hands will stop shaking before I start playing guitar. Like, in that setting, you know?
Yeah, just taking ownership of what you actually want
just
to
like
do.
really being like, this is me. I'm gonna kill it right here in front of you. You know?
Yeah.
So.
I'm going to ask you to put your advice cap on for a second.
Oh, no. Here we go.
How important do you think that is? Like, because I think it's very easy for whether it's musicians, people in general, to sit and want to do a thing, but they're going to wait until they have something that says, oh, yeah, you're that thing. You can go do it. Like, they're going to wait until like somebody really is like, hey, I've got this show and we're going to make it all about you and you've got this thing. And somehow you just wake up one day and you're going to have the skills of being a performer on stage. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people get stuck in that phase of I'm going to wait until I have the thing and then let myself do it so that I can be the thing that I want to be. Mm-hmm. You just did it. You just started doing the thing. So my question is like, how important is that? How important is it to not sit and wait for something to come to you? Instead, I sometimes you just have to dive in head first, even if it's super scary.
Yeah.
And just take the chance and do the thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think to me, it comes down to this. It's like, because in my head, I was like, when that really cool opportunity comes around, I want to be great, you know? So for now, I got to shake this fear in Donato's basement, you know? Yeah. You know? So yeah, I don't know, because everyone has to arrive there on their own. You know, you can't tell anyone how to dive in, you know? And there's probably things in my life that I should be diving into, and I haven't, whatever that is, and other people are. But when it comes to playing guitar and singing, yeah, I mean, it's just, you gotta at least put it on. Let's put it this way: you gotta at least put it on the iCal, just like this podcast, because I didn't. In some weird way, being on a podcast to me is like some sort of anxiety trigger. But if you don't put yourself on the iCal, if it's not on the calendar, it's never going to happen. But if it's on the calendar, there's at least a chance.
Yeah, you know? Well, you're giving something a deadline. Like you're saying, this random goal or this random thing that I'm going to do, it is going to be happening here. But that's exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah.
It's I'm just going to go do that show.
Right.
I know the show is happening on this date. If you weren't taking those chances, or if people don't take those chances, you're going to sit and wait until...
Also, I will say this. You always feel better after you do it. No matter what.
Yeah.
So, you know, the anticipation kills you, right? And it's going to keep killing you until you do it.
Right. At what point did that... I'll just use the terms anxiety and excitement because they're super similar feelings. But at what point did the anxiety of going up and playing a show turn to excitement at all? And I'm not saying even today, I'm sure before a show, you're like...
Never goes away,
God,
but...
Which means you care about what you're doing.
Exactly,
If you just stop, getting nervous, you don't care. But like, did it happen in that time frame at all? Like when you finally met up with that confidence that you were being given by other people, was there a moment in that time frame where you were like, all right, I think I got this solo thing. Like I can do it.
Yeah, no, I think it's really telling, especially in a singer-songwriter capacity when you're playing for strangers. And you know when you're really killing it is when everyone's quiet, because it's very rare, you know?
Yeah.
And, you know, there were a couple shows where I got to play in front of larger audiences, and I got that reaction, which was awesome, and what you chase every time. And you can't get it every time, but yeah, I mean, and once you get that confidence after you see people really pay attention, they're really digging it, or there's at some point they are singing along, and you're like, that's crazy, you know? But yeah, but the feeling never goes away. let's put it that way, no matter what. But I will say, I mean, maybe this can come later, but throughout all of the different acts I was doing, there's always like the flying by the seat of your pants aspect of like, hey, we need a guitar player. You got to learn 15 songs in whatever small amount of time, or by tomorrow, let's say. And there's several times it's happened by tomorrow. Yeah. And it's that same thing. It's kind of putting all of that, at that point, you're throwing the anxiety out the window because you just got to get it done, right?
Right.
But there's just like the weird blind faith of just like, this is what I'm supposed to be good at.
Right. So I guess let's test it out.
So let's give it a shot.
Yeah. Well, what's cool about that is like, I feel like you have, and again, I think we'll get more into this later, but like, I feel like you have consistently always found a way to prepare yourself for those things. Because I think there's a difference in like, oh yeah, I'm getting thrown this like random opportunity and like, holy shit, like it's crazy, it's wacky, like yeah, it's stressful no matter what. But I feel like you are a person, at least as an outsider identifying these things and listening to your story so far, you're a person who has always been able to take on that challenge because of work you've done on yourself previously.
I think, like indirectly, like like...
You weren't sitting saying,
there's no, it's not super calculated by any means.
Of course.
But yeah, that's kind of like, I will say this. This is, I think my whole life so far has been predicated on that whole notion of like opportunity and preparedness kind of thing. And another key factor for me was just availability. So like, even like as far back, like, you know, when I was 19 years old, I was bailing on my shift at the movie theater to play at Polaris Mall the next day or something. Same deal. Like,
right.
Hey, we got to learn 15 songs. You got to learn Mistletoe by Justin Bieber and, you know, the Mariah Carey one. And I was like, okay, among all these other great Christmas songs or something.
Yeah.
And it was just like I don't know, like that's like the intuition in me was just sort of like, I'll figure out the job thing later. I just want to play the show. I got to play the show. And that's been kind of a reoccurring theme for me for almost every artist that I've ever played for and myself. So
yeah, and I think that matters.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah, you're not sitting and you weren't calculating saying like, well, one day I'm going to work hard so then I get this one specific thing.
Yeah.
I mean, you said it way earlier. You were still just like, how can I be the thing that I want to be so then I'm prepared when that opportunity arises? Sure. So then, yeah, it's going to be stressful to try and learn 15 songs in a night, but you can, and that's the point.
Yeah, no doubt.
So walk me through, again, like more of, you know, Will, the solo artist part of things, right? Because also during that time, like you signed to a small indie label at that point in time. I think you released like a EP or something.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if that was the original set of songs that you recorded. Or
the acoustic EP. Yeah.
So, it like, does that at that point in time, does that do anything? Like, are you like, oh shit, like a label? Like, doesn't matter what size
I thought it
is.
was the
like,
shit.
You were like, hell yeah.
I thought it was killing it.
Yeah.
No, the thing is like the cool thing about the music scene around here, at least the people I kind of grew up knowing, is a lot of people have gone on to do cool things, whether they're artists or managers or booking agents or talent buyers or whatever. So, you know, I was able to get some opportunities through those relationships just by being able to send the Dropbox link to somebody and be like, hey, what do you think about this? And then this guy goes, oh, I really like this. Let me show it to this guy. And then, you know, oh, we're going to put you on this show, or you know, I want to pay for a music video and put your EP out or something like that. So, you know, that's kind of like how that was going. It was cool, and it was exciting because it was like, and the thing I loved the most about it was like, it was mine, you know. It was like, oh wow, there's no one else to blame or whatever but me, you know.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, and I was just really happy, and also the really probably the coolest part about it and like the most genuine feelings about it was just the people that were listening that liked it were connecting to songs that I wrote.
Yeah.
Which is a great feeling.
Right.
Which I'm sure you can relate to, is like if you put out anything and someone goes, wow, that really landed, and you're like, God, that's a drug. That's awesome.
100%. Because you're like, oh, the purpose that I put into it.
Yeah.
It served its purpose.
Right.
Somebody else
the message
cared about
came
it.
across. We relate to each other.
Exactly.
Right. And that's what we all want, right? That connection, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, that's what that time was. And then that's what kind of eventually turned into Heavy Things.
Right. Right.
So Heavy Things was at the beginning, my solo record, like a full length, but then I signed to a different label that was like, you should use a band name. And I was like, okay.
I forgot about that actually.
Yeah.
Because I feel like we were like talking a lot about that during that time.
Yeah.
I forgot that was how that played out.
Yeah.
Yeah. For some reason I was remembering that like it was Heavy Things existed. You stopped doing the solo stuff, Heavy Things, then label.
Right. No.
But I guess it was at the same.
Right.
Yeah.
It was just like the continuation. But then, you know, and it was literally like, hey, I need guys to play. Like, and it wasn't like I was these other artists that could like pay these people to do stuff. It was like,
right.
Alex moves back from Alabama because he was going to school down there, and he hadn't played drums in a while. And I was like, dude, I need a drummer. And he's like, dude, I haven't played in like 2 years. And I was like, I don't care. And then, yeah, so, but then it became a collaborative effort down the road, you know, going on. So
right. So let's walk through that experience a little bit. So you go from one label to another label. Are you in the mindset of, all right, cool, things are just still going? Or are you like, oh no, this is a big shift of like, all right, I'm not solo guy anymore. After I built up all this confidence to be solo guy, are you stoked on the idea of having a band?
Yeah, I liked it.
Are you like stoked on like, cool, this label means the next step? Or are you just like going through the motions of like, let's just keep going?
Well, and this is probably every artist can attribute this, or can like identify with this feeling of when you're writing your favorite songs that you've ever written, especially like you're writing your best work at the time, you have it all. You're like, you just have this thing. It's like, everyone's going to love this shit. Like, so, you know, you're on the chase. You're like, all right, label, whatever. Like, I was like, all right. I was like, I'm sort of like telling them like super naively, like, this record's going to be great with or without you guys. So,
yeah.
So get on board or not.
But I will give a confidence boost and say that I believe that.
Thank you.
An outsider, as a listener, and also somebody who was working closely with you at that point in time, both of those records that you wrote during that time frame are incredible records.
Thanks.
And I'm also going to sit and say that I've never heard a bad song from Will Deely.
Wow. I'm going to go,
you know what? On record.
That's the clip for Instagram.
You know what? I will put that in. Let's put that in the calendar. That'll be the promo.
So, but yeah, so during those times, it was also very validating because, like I said, it kind of goes back to that. I'm trying to prove myself that I'm going to be this art. Like, I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to play music. Like,
sorry to interrupt you, but like, do you mean that in the sense that you're trying to prove that to yourself, or trying to prove that to
everyone?
Else? Okay.
You know, everyone. I'm proving it to myself. I want to prove it to my peers or people that, you know, I don't know, haters. I don't know. The people that may not believe in me that I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. Not to keep us trailing off here, but yeah. Why were you trying to prove that? Was it so you felt more confident? Because I mean, like, you believed in what you were doing.
It's just part of it. Like,
yeah.
I think it's just sort of like Raging Against the Man or something. Like, I'm not going to be lame or something. Like, I'm going to do what I want to do on my terms, and it's playing music, and that's how I'm going to make it, you know?
Right. Yeah.
Just like beating that into existence, hopefully, right? But yeah, then like doing the label thing like helped kind of validate that, and was like, oh, this guy's investing in me to do this. That's cool.
Yeah, for sure.
Also, it's like, yeah, get to make some cool music videos, and you know, and big thing for me was I get to record for free.
yeah, right.
You know, so yeah, I mean, it was exciting, man, and all of that, and then at that point I was able to do some shitty touring with my close friends and buy a shitty van that breaks us down and live that dream.
Of course.
Yeah. So it was awesome. And, you know, I loved those years. Those were really fun, you know, I was 20, had to be 23 to, Heavy Things was 23 to 27 of my life. So
when that's coming to an end, what's going through your mind at that time frame? Is it?
Well, so now we're jumping forward. But yeah, so I mean, at this point, like I said, it was like more of a collaborative effort, and you need time from other people that you're with, right? And we're kind of at this point, some of the like really cool, hot opportunities that we were kind of sort of getting weren't really showing up for us anymore or as often, and we were kind of like splitting our time as a cover band, you know, all with the same intensity of like, we just got to keep going. Like, how do we keep going? I was like, well, if we play emo night, then we'll make $500 and we can record a new song and do all this and that. Or, you know, if we play New Year's Eve in the short north and like, whatever, you know, so, but you know, I think it was winding down as far as like a large time commitment for some other people. And, you know, so things were kind of like become like, all right, well, maybe my life is, I'm never going to stop playing music. That's never an option for me, I think. And I think the pandemic has proven that to me. But before we even get there, it was just sort of like, well, okay, well, I'll just do it on this. I'll just record songs and play shows on the side, and you know, but I got to focus on, you know, real life, you know?
Yeah. So obviously I know we just jumped ahead a little bit to like as Heavy Things is winding down, but more so like, let's rewind a little bit. When that deal with the record label is coming to an end, what's going through your head then? Is it just like, hey, cool thing I got to experience, got those records out there.
Yeah.
I believe that they're good. Awesome. Or is it like, fuck, like,
well,
okay, time to restart again. Like what the hell? Like,
well, it was kind of like my decision to no longer keep going.
Yeah. Okay.
With them, not that I know if they would have or not, but I was just, at that point I was like, I'm going to make a different kind of music or something. So I was like, I don't want to be on this label anymore, or I want to try to do things on my own, or I don't know what my thought process was, but I think I was just like ready for something different. Right. So really there was no like direct, you know.
Yeah, you weren't sitting one day and you're like, well, damn, like what you were just like, oh no, yeah, this is like a welcome.
I was like,
change.
you know what? I was like, I want to try something else. Manically, probably. I was just sort of like, I gotta figure something else out, and I'll figure it out. But I'm gonna do it on my own. Like that was the idea with that, or like leaving the label or deciding that or whatever.
Yeah, deciding just to not continue with it and just to go and be like, okay, what's the next?
Yeah, and that kind of proved to be like I was making more like indie rock adjacent music and working with different producers and whatever, and it kind of just slowed down a little bit, the whole, you know, cycle of things. And plus, I don't know, we weren't getting enough, like we didn't have like tour offers coming our way or something like that. So yeah, just kind of wound down. And
so going into like, I know we touched on this earlier, like as Heavy Things itself is starting to change, walk me through what we're feeling at that point in time. Because again, like every single like different chapter that we enter, I feel like your answer has consistently been, yeah, I was just going to figure it out. It was just on to the next thing. Yeah. And that doesn't mean that you don't care about any of those things changing.
No, it was definitely like, every aspect of change, every era of my adult life was definitely riddled with anxiety and bouts of depression and all that of like, all right, well, like what am I going to do? What am I going to be? Whatever. And then also like, it kind of goes like this, right? Like you're like, you write a great song. You're like, this is going to destroy, right? Like whatever. And then like that time passes and you're like, no one cares about anything that I do. What do I even care what I do? What am I doing? Or who am I? Whatever, So, but as Heavy Things winding down, that's kind of when Beartooth kind of starts creeping into the picture, just in various roles. I mean, throughout Heavy Things' existence, it was like they're like, we need a guy to drive a box truck to a show, and I was like, all right, I'm down. Or whatever. We need a guy to watch the monitor board or something on this 2-week tour. I was like, cool, no problem. Better than my real job, bartending or something.
Yeah.
So yeah, those kind of things start popping up. And then, in the middle, like kind of the middle of the last year of Heavy Things, 2019, then I get the call to come play and fill in for 6 weeks or something. And that was awesome. And then so like it's kind of weird how naturally the handoff was there because and maybe and you could maybe say that like because I was having to spend so much of my time doing Beartooth, it kind of slows down it kind of brought that ending kind of sooner, I would say, faster, more abruptly, I guess. But yeah, so I mean, to me, it was just sort of kind of what I've always done was like, all right, this other thing's slowing down, but I mean, I'm deeply in control of it in a way where it's like I'm like the creative aspect of it and whatever. I'm still going to do it, but like now I'm playing for this other band also, Mm-hmm.
So before we dive like deeper into the Beartooth stuff, I'm gonna ask you a question that I know you're not gonna like, but I'm gonna ask it anyway.
What?
Talking about the anxiety and depression of doing all this sort of stuff, being in a creative field, having a creative passion, all that sort of stuff. And this can be like an all-encompassing sort of like, hey, looking back at the story we've told up to this point.
Yeah.
What was that like for you? And I asked that in the sense of what did you do to keep that balance? Because yes, the wave, it always goes like this. We're going to have the highs, we're going to have the lows, all that sort of stuff. And I'm asking this not even directly for the show that we're doing, but literally as your friend who we've never talked about this stuff before. Mm-hmm. Because again, I have seen you as my talented friend Will, who makes incredible music and just kind of is always prepared for the next opportunity. Mm. But I don't know how my friend Will actually feels in between those opportunities. Mm. So on those down moments, on those moments of defeat or whatever, of like, is this music thing going to work? What's my next opportunity? Blah, blah, blah. Because it seemed to be a steady path. Like,
right.
How are you? What are those moments like, and how are you dealing with them?
Well, they continue, and they continue throughout my life to this day. So it's like, and I'm sure you can relate. But I mean, it's not like it's. I described my mental health or my battle with anxiety and depression as like a pretty slow simmering low boil, I'd say.
Okay. What does that mean?
That means like,
I feel like mine boils over and I'm like, oh.
It's more like, man, all right, get up. I'm not going to get dressed today. I'm just going to get on my computer and play a game. All right, I'm going to watch a movie. Oh, it's 7:00 at night. Okay. I'm gonna try again tomorrow, but the thing is like, so yeah, and then you're like, dude, come on, you gotta be doing better than this. That kind of internal fight, but it's sort of like the polarization of the two is incredible because, like, and I'm sure you can probably attest to this, is like. It's like, for me, it's like when I write a song I'm really proud of, it's like the best feeling in the world. I'm like, man, because there's nothing better than having a good idea, right? Or at least in that moment, if you think it's a good idea, you're like, I am the shit, Totally. And you're really only as good as your last frustration is what I feel like. Like, you're like, if I write something that's really, really good to me, I'm stoked. And then if it doesn't come for a while, then I'm like, man, I suck at this. You know what I mean? Like that monologue. And I'm sure you feel the same way, right? Like that's.
Yeah, well, I think that's like a big thing that I've been learning recently is like it just about myself is like I heavily, and this is everything that you're saying, like I heavily attach to the highs and I heavily attach to the lows. And I don't often let myself live in that gray area where even if like there's nothing.
That's the Zen.
Yeah,
Everyone's,
right?
Every older mentor that I have, whether it's my dad or like friends in music that have been around for a while, they're like, you got to ride in the middle, man.
And that is exactly
can't ride too high.
Yeah. That's what I'm working on unlocking right now is that gray area in the middle, right? Is because just like you're saying, when something really cool happens, I'm like, this is incredible. It's not that I'm forgetting about anything else, but I'm feeling that high.
Yeah.
I'm feeling that like, this is amazing.
It's just you just want to bottle it up.
Yes,
you're like
finally I've reached
I just
got to
keep this.
Right.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, when I'm down in the lows, I ultra feel the lows.
Yeah.
And when you're in those lows, you're like, I don't know when another high is going to come. I don't know how to even get from 0 to 5. I'm not even worried about 10. I don't even know how to get to the 5.
Do you ever feel like, sorry to interrupt
You're good. Go.
Do you ever feel like, I say this all the time where I'm like a couple days or a week or something will go by, and if I'm working on music, like right now I'm not touring for a few months, so I've been trying to work on more music myself. I've actually been trying to make more music than I normally do to sort of, I don't know, prove to myself, I don't know, just to do it because I haven't done it in a while.
Yeah.
So if something doesn't come, like any idea, a riff, a chorus idea, a lyric or something, if it doesn't happen to me for a while, I'm like, I don't know when I'll ever write another song again. Maybe I'm out. Maybe I'm out of juice. You know?
Yeah. Well, I think like that's the attachment, right? I think that's the like, oh, this is.
I always feel like I get away with one when I got one though.
What do you mean?
Like recently I finished a song that I'm really proud of, and I like sitting there on my desk and I'm listening to it and I was like, man, I don't know how I did that. And I don't know if I'll ever do that again.
Yeah.
And not to sound like overconfident or whatever, but it's just sort of like, I was like, I can't just pick up the guitar again and just write another song. I just don't feel like I can do that. But
Right. I mean, yeah, and I have those moments of like, even just in small ways where there'll be a night where just everything will click and I'll just go in and I'll just like do all the stuff and I have all the ideas and it's perfect. And like the next day, because we can't bottle it up, I'm like, okay, it's not that I'm sad all of a sudden or that I don't believe I can do the thing. I do, but for some reason the spark isn't there. Like, why can't I just get started?
The magic is not there today.
Yeah, and it's like, but it's still like, I know it's in me. Like that confidence is still there. But for some reason I'm like, wait, but why can't I turn it on? Like, I don't understand. Like, where's the switch that I can just flip and go and do that thing again? But it is like, it's that balance of like all the ups and downs. And that's what I'm super guilty of, is like I super attach to one or the other. But it's weird though, because like when I'm in the lows, I believe in myself enough that even when I'm low, I'm not sitting and telling myself I'm never going to be able to be good again. I'm more sort of saying, hopefully I can get out of this because I don't feel good.
Yeah.
But I'm never like, oh, well, I guess I'm not good enough. I guess I'm not, whatever. I've got that odd sense of confidence unlocked in that way. Where like, I'm going to have a terrible day and I'm going to feel awful.
Right, yeah.
But there's still going to be that small part of me that's like, yeah, but okay, we can, like, we'll figure it out. No clue when I'll figure it out, but yeah, we'll figure it out. Like, and I don't know. I get the feeling that you have a similar...
Probably more now than in the past. I think like attaching yourself to your work so much, especially back in those years where I was like, this is my life's work. This is what I'm actively trying to do solely, is just make great songs, and I'm like trying to nail it. So then when you're like more emotionally invested, especially and naive and whatever. And now it's sort of like, now it's kind of like a creative muscle where I'm like, I'm very passionate about writing songs, and but it's not like as soul bearing, I guess. In a way,
Well, I'm actually glad you brought the whole like attaching yourself to your art thing up, because that's what I wanted to talk about earlier, is like that I think is the hard part, is because obviously like anything we create, it's an extension of ourselves. So
Right.
putting it out there, it's like, here's a little bit of me. I hope somebody likes it. I don't know. Like, it could hurt me if no one does. Like, but at the same time, I think the fulfillment is, but I did it. But I got to do it.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, it doesn't matter. Like, like especially now with social media and stuff, we're like, why doesn't my thing have 1 million people looking at it?
Right.
And that's a hard battle. And I get that. But I think that's what, especially in the creative field, that's what makes the highs high and the lows low, is because we do so often just begin to self-identify with the thing we're making.
Right.
And I think...
So your worth, the amount of likes is my self-worth.
my worth is, did someone like this song?
Did I nail it?
My worth is, did that music video
Right.
kill? Did the client pay? Like, even that thing. Like, but that's a big thing that I've uncovered over the years and like gotten a really good hold on. I will honestly say is like learning to detach my heart and soul
Right.
from the things that I'm doing.
Well, it's more like, is it good enough for you?
Exactly.
Because that's where I'm at. Or that's where I feel like I'm at now, where I'm like, I'm never going to win the race to the biggest TikTok thing ever. But, dude, I'll tell you right now, when I'm walking around in my Columbus Blue Jackets pajama pants and I write a great song, I'm fucking cool.
Yeah, like you had a dope day.
Yeah,
Like,
and I was like, I don't care if this gets 5 plays or 5 million plays. This is why I do it, you know?
that I think is the key to
Yeah.
like being a creative person.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, we want to turn it into a career. We want to turn it into like, oh, I can receive something from this. Because of course, like you want a reward
Yeah.
for your hard work.
Part
There's
of it,
nothing
yeah,
wrong
there's
with
there's
that.
validation in that and
Yeah.
all of the things we kind of talked about, like where you're like, you're trying to prove to people or yourself or your family or people that are doubting you or whatever. It's like see, look what I did. I told you, you know?
Yeah. And I think the value is knowing that I am this when no one else is around.
Right. And
that for me is the thing. Like,
that validation is what I feel like is neglected in everybody, is the self-validation. It's like, you know, and it really kind of took getting to this point where I'm able to play awesome shows and play in a really popular metal band, but it was like, oh, I've always been this. I've always done this. Nothing's changed. You know, it's no different. I still have the same problems, and I still, you know what I mean. It's like that validation, whatever. But yeah, it's funny how that works. You know.
Yeah, when it's like I feel like I've tried to learn to view that external validation as bonus.
Exactly.
It's not like the thing, because we can make it the thing. But when you can sit and be like, I like this for what it is. I'm happy that I created this. I'm happy that I'm pursuing this. And if somebody else is also like, love that thing, stoked for you, whatever. Yeah. There's a bonus.
Absolutely.
Like the win is already there. Now it's just icing on the cake.
Yeah.
Like,
the best validation is self-validation for sure. And because there's no better feeling than just to be at home and at peace with yourself. Yeah. You know?
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
Because, you know, and there's people that are wildly more famous and successful that are dealing with more turmoil and more problems than me because of probably that reason, you know?
Yeah, 100%.
So yeah, it's interesting though, you know, I think it's just part of getting older, you know? Yeah, it really is.
Yeah, we you know, you care less about other people's opinions and, you know, all that sort of stuff. But it is such a specific case in creative fields. Yeah. In arts, entertainment, all that sort of stuff. When someone is trying to do something, and that's not to say that somebody with a normal job isn't struggling with self-validation.
Oh, no.
Absolutely are.
Yeah,
but it's
absolutely.
just different than.
For sure.
It's still like the same thing as the self-validation battle, but it's different in the way it's being pursued. Again, creating art, hoping that someone likes it, and then, but not remembering like, well, did I have fun with it? And then if I want to turn it into something dope, I want to do that. Like when I started this podcast, I started it for me. You know what I mean? Like, of course, I want listeners. Of course, I want someone to hear Will Deely's story and relate to it, connect to it, and be like, wow, I feel like I know him better. And also, man, when they talked about that self-validation stuff, I felt validated because someone else is dealing with the same problem.
Right, exactly.
I want people to, connect with this thing and learn from it and embrace, you know, the emotions that come with it. But I also started this because I love talking to people and I love connecting with people. I love relating to
yeah.
people and digging into those deeper parts of their story.
It all comes back to Chipotle, man.
It does.
Our sponsor.
This episode is sponsored by, man, if I had a sponsorship by Chipotle.
And that's why we are really here.
Yeah, you know what? Let's ignore anything else. Let's just talk about the value of Chipotle.
Oh, man.
But that's the thing, though, is like we joked about it earlier, is like you and I would have similar conversations, obviously not the same structure.
Yeah.
But we would have similar conversations
doubt.
over Chipotle at lunch.
Yeah.
Because that's just naturally what
Yeah.
I'm like, I want to spend time with somebody.
Yeah.
I value one-on-one time. So cool. Yeah, let's talk about what are the annoyances that Heavy Things are dealing with right now. What's the
Right.
annoyances that you're dealing with right now? Like, what are your new ideas and next ideas? And let's brainstorm those and all that sort of stuff.
Right.
It doesn't always have to center around an art or a creation. But there's so much value in those conversations or these conversations being had in general, in the same way that there's so much value in us just figuring out what's the thing that we like. Mm-hmm. And then how can we let ourselves do that? And it doesn't have to always be this all or nothing mentality.
Right, yeah.
Because I think that we're also all very guilty of saying, if I can't start a music project tomorrow and be playing arenas by 3 months from now, I guess I suck.
Right.
We put this all or nothing thing on it when it's like, well, maybe like take a step back and figure out what version of it do you want to do?
Yeah.
Like technically you did that back in the day. Like, yes, I'm sure Will would have wanted John Mayer to be like, hey, hit me,
exactly.
come out with a tour. But like,
but at the time, and this kind of goes back to like, for me, there was moments where I was like, oh, if I can just record a 5-song EP with my songs that just sounded good, that I'd be happy. You know, that's it. That's all I need. Then you get that done. You're like, man, if I could just play a couple shows in front of my friends in Donato's basement, that'd be it. That's all I need. Whatever. And that kind of thing. So as you kind of achieve, like reach these different goals, you make new goals and stuff like that, right?
Right. The goalpost is always going to be moving.
Yeah. And
but
and as long as you're enjoying it, or, it's healthy, because some people will beat themselves to death over it,
You have to make sure you accept your wins.
Yeah,
because moving
right.
the goalpost can easily be a negative thing. It can. You're not even like, it's like you're almost about to make the goal, but then you move it because you're like, no, this one isn't it.
You got to make it, then move the goalpost.
Exactly. Like you have to evolve up. It's the video game analogy. You know what I mean? Like each new level is going to have its own challenges, but you're also going to gain something from that helps you in the next level. But there is a next level. Mm-hmm. But you learn something from the previous one that helps you in that one. Like that is literally how
it all
works.
comes back to Elden Ring.
It all comes back to Chipotle and Elden Ring.
Elden Ring.
And also Warzone, which we'll talk about. I don't even remember how we trailed off into this. And I feel
we were, if we're talking chronologically, we are at the end of Heavy Things and the beginning of Beartooth.
Okay. So walk me through how that happens. Because like you said, you were filling in here and there. You're kind of like one of the go-to guys of like, hey, we need somebody to fill in on guitar. We need somebody to do kind of these random things. We can trust Will to come do it. How does that turn into, we can trust them to come do it whenever, to, hey, want to join?
Yeah. I mean, it was, I want to say it was like it was obviously very unexpected, but yeah, I mean, it like I said, Learn 15 Songs come out tomorrow, right? And those were that several times of doing something like that, or, so, but yeah, I mean, by the time I joined, I was like, all right, here, like, you want to come, join? And we're going on tour in Europe in a few days. I'm like, great. This is early 2020 now. And then, so we go to Europe for 5 weeks and then come home, and then there's no more touring for 2 years or whatever.
Yeah, I forgot that timed out that way. Like literally right when you hopped in, it was, nothing else.
Yeah. Hey, we need a guitar player. Oh, we're not going to need a guitar player for 2 years.
Yeah. So obviously, pandemic is pandemic. It's crazy, sucks, wild, whatever. What was that time frame like for you? Were you just sort of like, I'm just waiting for this Beartooth thing to keep going? Was there like a reevaluation of? Because I feel like that's what it was for a lot of people. Being stuck at home alone.
So that year before was like a pretty crazy year, right? For me, for several reasons. But Heavy Things is slowing down. I'm starting to get cool opportunities to play for Beartooth. And then my personal life is changing, relationships ending, who am I, whatever, and then, you can't think about it because you're on tour again, So then you go to Europe and you come home and then everything's done, and then you can't even leave your house, right? So it was a lot of like doing the accounting of like, all right, slow it down. Like a lot of stuff's going on, but nothing's happening now. So figure it out. Like where are you? Who are you? What's going on? So, cause when you do, that was like kind of the highs and lows is like, oh, I'm on tour right now, but this isn't my gig. So I'm just on tour for 5 weeks and now you're home by yourself. And what's next? I don't know. Like, so it was a lot of highs and lows that way. And then, so really most of the pandemic was like getting my head to stop spinning because of, the ups and the downs over just the past however many years of doing all we just talked about.
Yeah.
And the whole time was just literally, it was just a lot of, it wasn't an inspiring time. Like I know some people were writing music and doing stuff, but for me, it was like, am I ever going to leave the house? Like, right. There was just not, it was just, I couldn't motivate myself to like really write music very well or whatever. So I was just like waiting. It was just like holding pattern and a lot of video games.
Was that like, I'll just say like lack of motivation? Like, did that come from just like the world being insane and you were like, dude, what the hell? Or was it, this is my first slowdown technically, and now everything is catching up and I'm like, and like the wave has caught up to me now, and I'm like, wait a second, how do I deal with all this?
Right. Yeah, pretty much. It was just sort of like, it's kind of just like looking in the rearview mirror and being like, what the hell just happened? Like, and then just also like, now I was 27 or something, and I was like, now you're old. Right. Yeah. So, and then, and then you realize like how much, like for me, it's like performing is like it's like a release and stuff like that. And just being at shows and doing all that is like such a big deal to me. And I was underselling it to myself for years. I was just sort of like, cause when you're frustrated at it, you're like, I don't need to do this anymore or whatever. But then when you're not able to do any of it and like nothing's happening, you're like, oh, this really is a huge part of me, like no matter what,
Yeah. So what are you doing during that time frame? Like whether it's 2020, end of 2020, whatever, is it just like kind of just sat and like kept myself chill until tours started happening again? Or was it like, 6 months in, I started writing music and got that like spark?
Oh, no, definitely. Well, I wrote some music, but it was like, at that time it was like, I was still working at bars and just trying to get by and like, I was like, whenever touring's happening, I'll do it. I'm going to be doing it again, but like, who knows when that's going to be? So it was just like a holding pattern, but it was a lot of like getting my personal life in order just to like, it's really hard to explain, but I met my girlfriend that I have now, who's been a very positive influence on me the whole time. So a lot of that, just kind of just like getting my life feeling like getting all this stuff I've neglected over the years together to really to get myself prepared, like you said, to like go forward.
Yeah.
But stuff that I didn't think about because it had nothing to do with playing guitar. It was like, oh, how are you gonna? You can't just live and die by being you can't like you said, like ride up and down on the success of music, right? Because you'll kill yourself, Mm-hmm. So it was like you gotta have like a good home base and feel good about yourself day to day, so you can do what you do and do it well and healthy,
Yeah, what's everything we were talking about earlier? It's like what does self look like? How does self feel when no one else is around, when those things aren't happening, when whatever. Let me ask you this. What did it feel like to finally focus on Will and not like the music that Will is a part of in his making?
It's hard to say that like really like presently,
Right.
It's something that I look back on and I was like, man, that pause was good. It was it was good to like kind of ground yourself and whatever, because at a time when Heavy Things was coming to an end, and like you said, like you're attaching yourself to all your music, and you're like being hard on yourself, like, well, I'm not writing good enough songs, or I'm not doing this. So you're kind of attributing the failure to your work, right? Mm-hmm. And so going from that into starting to play these crazy shows with Beartooth, and so kind of riding that roller coaster, and just kind of being like, you know what, I'm going to put the creative side away for a while. I'm just going to focus on being a great performer and grow in these different ways, similar to how I did earlier in my career, where I'm like, well, now I got to learn these different skills because I've never played heavy metal before. So
right.
So then, coming back from dealing with that low, going to the highs, and then now it's just quiet. It's like you got to center yourself somehow, you know, and you got to be able to do that with or without your passion, right? You know?
Yeah. Well, it's because passions are great and all that sort of stuff, but we can easily also use them as a crutch of like, oh, I'm feeling down. Well, I can just distract myself with this, or oh, I'm feeling really good, so I can do this thing. Again, it's the attachment thing.
Yeah.
It's the idea of like, who are you when no one else is around? Like, that's the thing. Right. Like, and in a very like non-metaphorical, like quite materialistic way, like a funny example, but like I just experienced that with the whole Instagram, Facebook thing getting deleted, right? Like I don't have the immediate validation anymore of like getting to share creations and post what I'm up to.
Right.
And, oh my God, everybody look at me, I'm doing these things. I sat and, you know, so now that I don't have that outlet of having eyes on me, and not that it was like some life-changing moment, but it was a nice reminder in that sense of, okay, well, like, who am I without the internet?
Yeah.
Who am I without social media? Like, am I still doing the things that I'm doing? Because I think sometimes it'd be valuable for people to slow down and figure that out. Am I creating or doing these things or whatever for showcase? Or am I doing it because I actually enjoy doing it? Luckily, I was able to sit and identify like, wait, even if I don't have an Instagram to post about this on,
I can still do it.
I still am me.
And I like it.
I still do the things that I've been doing. None of it stopped. There just wasn't a platform to show everybody that I was doing it that day. Like,
and I, a funny thought came to my head as you're describing this tragedy, honestly, but
biggest tragedy ever.
That reminds me of like the days I go to the gym and forget my Apple Watch. Like, not that I share my progress with anyone, but it's like I didn't progress at all if it's not documented.
Yeah, okay. Interesting. Yeah. That's actually hilarious.
I thought about that. I was like on the Stairmaster. I was like,
I'm not doing anything.
I'm not closing any rings.
I'm not seeing what I'm doing right now. I'm not even doing anything.
Yeah.
I'm not.
I might as well just leave.
I shouldn't even be here if I can't. If I can't take a picture of my wrist to post it to everybody to let them know I closed all my rings today, did I even really work out? That's actually incredible. But that is the thing, though. And it just goes back to like the self-validation of we're real without the internet.
Right, yeah.
And what things do we do without those highs? What things do we do when we can't tell a bunch of people about them? Are you still being a creative person? Are you still being a nice person? Are you still going to the gym and working out even though you can't have the proof of closing the rings and seeing the 20,000 steps you got that day?
Right.
Like things, like real life things still happen even when we don't share them.
Yeah, no doubt.
But at the same time, the real value in that is we still have our value in whatever things we want to do, even if we're not doing them. Mm-hmm. Will Deely is still a talented musician even if he's not on a stage, even if he didn't just write the perfect song that he gets to send a Dropbox link to a friend and be like, check this out. Like that is still there. And I think that is the value of being able to uncover within ourselves, is realizing like, okay, I'm still validated in the thing. And it doesn't have to be, again, the all or nothing. It's either like, I don't have it and I'm terrible. Well, that's not true. Or I did it, I succeeded. Hell yeah, this is amazing. Like, oh my gosh, here's all the adulation. Here's the attention, like whatever it is. So when you're getting to the end of that, what does that look like? And how long did you even sit? Like when you did that first tour with the Beartooth guys, like were you in the band then, or was it still you're filling in and this is rad?
So I filled in 2019, like in the spring. And like, it was like that. Yeah, this is fun. It's like bonus time. It like felt like it was just like, this is fun. Like it's whatever.
Yeah.
it was one of those things where I was like, hey, we have an emergency. Like, can you make this happen tomorrow? And I was like, I'll give it a shot. And he's like, you can do this, right? And I was like, I think so. Yeah. So that was awesome. And then and for various random reasons, it was like I found myself doing that kind of thing. And then the beginning of 2020 was like, hey, like, we need a guy. I was like, I'll give it a shot. See what happens,
Right.
So yeah, and but yeah, so then I think like I think musically through COVID, like most of my like thought process or like my whatever was like focused on like preparing myself for that. So like, and I was kind of just like a little burnout on the like creative thing, on the songwriting for a while. So it kind of took not really finishing much music for like a year and a half or something. And then touring again, and then kind of conquering that and being like, all right, this is what I'm doing now. I think I'm ready to kind of dive back into songwriting again. Like I'm feeling like passionate about it again, mainly because of that same feeling. It's like you're around people that are creative and have so much energy with it, and you're just sort of like, I got to get in on this, like in my own way, like, or whatever.
Right.
So that's kind of where I'm at now, where it's like, I got a pretty good break here, and I'm like, well, let's fucking go. Let's write some songs, like whatever, And it's more from like I'm just out of pure enjoyment. Like it's literally just like I'm having such a good time doing this, and I'm learning I'm learning so much about like the production side and all that it's just it's like I don't care if anyone listens or not or whatever. I'll send it to like my 5 trusted friends that I can send and give me a good honest answer about stuff, and that's enough for me. And then like we'll see where it goes. Maybe I'll start collaborating with others and whatever. So, But yeah, that's kind of where it's at right now.
And it's not about that attachment of this needs to be super successful.
Yeah.
It needs to do. It's you unlock the like, hey, I can do this thing. This is a creative outlet. I'm having fun. It's an art project essentially. I get to share it with other people. If they like it, dope. If not, I like it. So who cares?
And trying to make an effort on like engaging more. Just with everything, like I don't know, I feel like for a little while I was just sort of like, I'll just post some stuff when I gotta and be around places if I'm needed or whatever. But
mysterious.
Yeah, and I don't know, just like I don't know. But now I feel like it's like, what, it's like I can contribute to the algorithm some good stuff that I'm proud of, and maybe some people can like it, and if not, whatever, but I feel good doing it, like putting together a dumb video or whatever, and it's cool.
It's not a chore that you're trying to keep up with. It's I'll post a little video
of
my
why not?
Songwriting process.
Yeah.
That sounds fun to me.
Yeah.
It's not like, I'm doing it so I can do this to then get that to then blah blah blah. It's like, this just sounds fun.
Right. Yeah.
This just sounds like an enjoyable thing to do.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I'll play Nationwide Arena. No, but yeah, it's just, and to get better. Like, I guess this was going to be my next question is like, do you have any New Year's resolutions?
Oh, you're throwing me a question.
I'm throwing you a question.
Okay, I see.
This is the what you do here.
You're hearing it. You're hearing it right here. Man, New Year's resolutions. A bunch.
Really?
I have been on, I feel like a goal setting high in the last couple months because I was just in like one of the worst mental states I've ever been in my entire life.
I think we've talked about that a little bit. But
we might. Yeah,
You're
we
just
might
like kind of in a slump or whatever.
Yeah, just absolutely not feeling like myself at all. Completely disassociated from like who I was, what I was doing, and so then that leads to once I make that breakthrough, that mental breakthrough, I then am like, now I understand like new ways of goal setting. Now I understand new ways of reminding myself of those things of just like we said earlier, we already said this, but like living in the gray, like finding that quote unquote Zen, right?
Yeah.
Not attaching to the super high points and the super low points, living them and experiencing them, but what do we do with them?
Right.
And like that's something I've always known, but I had to learn how to remind myself of that recently. So back to your original question of what
the New Year's resolution.
New Year's resolution. You know, I have a bunch, but I can't remember any of them. Why don't you tell me some of yours?
Oh.
Look, you don't even have any. You just wanted me.
Well, I don't know. Well, here's the thing, and I'm sure you can probably agree. Is like, I don't think I need like any like complete overhauls in my life. You know,
right.
But I mean, I want to make meaningful progress, both like personally and professionally. Like that's part of the songwriting thing and the producing is like I'm like I want to. There's no like number or whatever of like I want this many songs or whatever. It's like I want to continue to build on this thing that I've kind of got started where I'm like I'm just being creative again because it's making me feel good. And then also I think for like professionally for playing guitar I feel like I've always been a very good guitar player or a great guitar player, but I want to be like fucking awesome, you know? So like really dedicating the time to actually get better in that facet also. Because there's a lot of times throughout my past where it's like learn something new on guitar and you're writing a riff, you know, or like something like that where it's like, no, sit your ass down and play this scale over this shitty jam track for an hour, you know?
Right. Okay.
But just things like that, there's not really like any massive ones, you know, but
well, that's like a lot of mine are like obviously like creative goals where I'm like, oh, I have another honestly couple show ideas that I'm working on and wanting to launch. Any of them I can't remember if we've talked about before, but it's a lot of stuff like that are very like singular, like, oh, I want to launch this show or I want to create this thing.
Yeah.
But I've also gotten better at identifying like in the sense of like New Year's resolutions, and I'm more so just like, hey, all year round I'm like trying to set new goals and like adding new things. So I'm not even like
it's a running list.
Yeah,
it's rolling over seasonally.
Right. I'm like, oh yeah, it's January. Okay, yeah, this is now a New Year's resolution rather than just a December plan. Like, all right, cool, now I know.
Right.
But I think a lot of where my focus has been, again, coming out of like just a shitty time period, it helped me reevaluate what my strengths are, and just to use like a silly term, like what my like superpowers are as like a human being who likes to connect with other people, who likes to educate other people, entertain other people, like whatever it is. And I think maybe if there's a big thing that I'm trying to just do this year is own that even more.
Sure.
And just lean into like you were saying, like if that means like posting a video online of me doing a thing, like I'm going to just start owning that.
Yeah.
Because like a conversation that we would have on a podcast or at Chipotle, cool. Why don't I like share that with other people? Why don't I share those thoughts that I'm having and just put them out there and be like, hey, hope this helps you. Like, and not worrying about like whether it's like, oh, am I trying to be like a cringe influencer or something? It's like, dude, I don't give it. Like, I know I'm not. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I know what I'm trying to do.
If it's coming, you know, like in your heart what you're chasing. So that's when you know. If you're like, oh, maybe, like, I don't know if this TikTok dance is really going to get me there.
Yeah, I'm not going to be leaning into TikTok dances, but it's like, and that's more of like a social media thing, but just like who I am as an individual, I'm just like, and I've been doing this for a few years, but I think I'm extra on the train now of just like, I'm just like not going to sit and pretend like I don't like to sit and try and inspire people or try to help people achieve goals. You know what I mean?
Are you saying that you're going to chase it daily?
I think I am. I love no one can even see that.
No one can see it. There is a very nice neon sign on the wall here. It says Chase It Daily.
You could have,
which is a Ross's own.
That is, you know what? I did make that up. I like that.
It was at least coined by you or something.
Yes.
Is that right?
I think so.
Is coined mean made up or just made popular or?
Coined is like some form of
patented
like,
by.
Yeah. Trademarked. I officially trademarked it now. Yeah. I hadn't until this point right now. But that is the thing though, of just like sitting and just like owning more of those things.
Sure.
Just like you're saying, like I'm going to own the fact that I'm a good guitar player and I'm going to become even better. And I'm just going to do the things I want to do. I'm going to write music that I want to write. I've been doing those things, but I think worrying less about owning the creative aspects, because like I said, if we were really looking at my 2023 list, I have so many creative ideas that I'm like hoping to accomplish this year and working to accomplish. that goes without saying. For me, I feel like the emphasis that I'm focusing on is just the type of human being that I am, and owning, and like not sitting and being like, oh yeah, I mean, like sometimes I like to sit in coffee shops with people and like have like a 6-hour conversation about their life. Like, nope, that's what I like to do that. I like to do that and I don't care. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, we'll sit and we're going to talk about all the things. I'm going to have you on a podcast and make you think about your life and ask you questions that you don't probably want to answer. That I enjoy. Not because it's putting somebody on the spot, not because it's creating content, but because those are the connector points that I like to have.
Yeah.
In the same way that I love to sit down with somebody and like, yeah, we're going to talk about anything fun or whatever. But like, I love when people are coming to me and they're like, hey, I kind of want to figure this thing out and I don't really know what to do. It's not that they think I have the answers, nor do I have the answers, but I can be that soundboard of them thinking out loud, or be that brainstorm session.
Right.
Or be that source of inspiration that at least is a reminder of like, no, you are talented in these ways, or you do have this capability.
Right.
I'd love to see you do that. So yeah, if there's any way that I can help, do that. I would love to see you do that thing. So that's a lot of what I'm focusing on this year.
Cool.
Is just owning more of that and not making it be such a thing that's like, oh, I'm creating or I'm making a podcast or whatever. It's like, nope, I'm doing these things as a human being, and I'm doing them again, regardless of whether I have social media or not, or like, whatever.
Yeah.
But back to you. Something like has the, because we've kind of caught up the timeline at this point, right?
We are now in present day.
We are now officially here.
Yeah. This is where we get into the Warzone 2 meta.
Yeah, this is, yeah. So what's your loadout right now? That's my next big question. Are you able to look at these opportunities that you've had and been able to take and see it as the value that like you have as a human being trusted by these people to bring you into these, rather than just you're a good guitarist?
Yeah, I think that's like that's the craziest thing about it all. That's what I'm always like, wow, someone called me to do this because they think that I can, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And that's more of like an in retrospect thing. Cause like, I think if there's anything that I have like blind confidence in, is like going and just playing the guitar or something. Like literally it's like, I'll find my way, you know, I'll get through it. I won't embarrass myself, you know, most times, but yeah, I mean, and that's like the most humbling part about it, especially like playing for other people and stuff, is like, man, someone who's, you know, I know how I felt like with the Heavy Things solo project thing, and like how like you know, how personally attached I was to that project. I know that feeling, and now someone else is trusting me when they have that feeling about whatever that, you know, whatever project they're working on that they're bringing me in on, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's an insane feeling for sure.
Right. I mean, again, as an outsider to your story, I can see that as, I feel like that's hugely valid.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay. Each chapter of this story has been like someone coming to you, trusting you that you're the guy.
Someone mega talented people just being like, hey, we want you. And I was like,
yeah,
wow.
Right. So I don't mean this as like existentially as it might sound, or even as basic as it also could sound.
Sure.
What do you like? What's next? What do you want next? Is it, I just want to ride a wave of being comfortable with creativity, you know, keep writing some fun music and touring with Beartooth and doing all this stuff? Or are there still like unfulfilled goals that you're like, this is something I've been hanging on to that I'd really like to achieve?
I mean, there's a lot more I want to explore on the creative side for sure. I want to keep writing. I want to start collaborating more. I want to produce more. And that's something that's like my everyday at home right now in this off time is like, it's just learning more and trying to reach out and collaborate rather than just hold myself up in a room and just create alone, really. So, as far as like professionally, I just want to keep going. Like that's pretty much it. It's less defined. Like I don't know like where the ball's going to roll next, but like I feel very fortunate to just be in the game still, you know, and like really and continue to meet so many creative, talented people. And because so far it's just brought me cool opportunities and has taught me a lot. So I want to just continue to like kind of stay in that space. And then outside of music, like personally, there's plenty of goals I want to kind of get to, whether it's like buying a house or, you know, stuff like that. So yeah, I turned 30 this year. So
congrats. I'm almost there.
Yeah. Are you? Really? You're going to be 30?
At the time of us recording this.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. It's all over.
It's all over, dude. But it's just kind of like, I'm just trying to enjoy it all too. Like, you know, and I feel like that's what this time in my life kind of is I want to continue to be good. I want to get better, and I want to be able to enjoy it, you know, going forward with everything.
Right. What is, like, if you were looking back, you know, because we just rehashed your entire story, all the things. So looking back at all of that, what do you feel like, is there one big lesson you feel like you've learned that you like carry with you right now today or have uncovered through all of that?
Man, I don't know. Yeah, I'm sure there is, but to like wrap it up and put a bow on it, I don't know if I'm like as well spoken enough to like give you the soundbite. But
so it's not making the promo material, is what you're telling me.
Yeah. No, it's just sort of like let's put it this way, and this is something my dad has always told me through all of this is like, no matter, so you want to get, I'm looking at the camera, you want to get here, right? And you're here, and you obviously want to just go straight there, right? But like, as long as you're going somewhere in the direction, just stay in the game and keep going, you know?
Right.
And that's kind of where I'm at with it.
No, that totally makes sense.
But yeah, that's pretty much, that's all I got. That's like, that's pretty much it.
Yeah. I mean, hey, I think it makes sense. I think that's soundbite worthy. That's
no, I'm pointing at the camera.
That makes it even better.
You see this?
Then people know, like, well, he's talking to me. He's talking to me.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have one final question.
Oh, here we go.
And this is how I end every single episode. So right now, this is a really pressure-filled question. So right now, I want you to pretend like everybody in the world is listening to you speak.
Mm-hmm.
So you have a live mic attached to everybody. They can hear you. They can understand you. We're throwing logic out the window. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
But you get to share something with everybody. What is it that you're saying, and what do you want them to hear?
Dude, I told you. Did I not already say I don't have the soundbite? And that's what needs to be on the Instagram.
That'll make the promo material too.
Yeah, I don't got the soundbite.
Is that your answer?
Oh man.
Is that your final answer?
Dude, I think that's it. I think we did it.
Do you think we did it?
I think this is what you do here.
They've heard it at this point. For however long we've been talking, I think we made a podcast happen.
I think we did it.
So you're just telling the people, everybody in the world, you're saying, hey guys, I don't have it.
You heard it here first. I don't have it.
Well, barring the heavy hitter questions aside, did this suck to do? Was it
was all right.
enjoyable to actually get to sit down and like take a deep dive into things?
It was good. Now, we'll see how I feel when I watch the replay.
Yeah, all right. You're gonna watch all this back. You're
Probably
gonna
not.
I was gonna say that's a big commitment to re-dive back in and be like, all right, I'm gonna try and make myself not like.
It's pretty
this
self-serving
by rewatching.
Oh
all
man,
of it.
did you see me there?
Oh, hey man, I know the episode's already released, but can you delete this, and that, please? Yeah, don't do that because that'll be really annoying. I don't want to do that. and even if you ask super kindly,
it's not gonna happen.
There's a good chance
it's uncut.
I'm not gonna delete it. So it's raw, unedited.
That's raw.
You know what I mean?
That's how we do it.
We'll see what happens. So we're saying goodbye. We make a podcast. Do you want anyone to check out anything that you do? We've talked about all the music that you're doing, all this sort of stuff, all the new projects, the old projects. Where can people find Place Your Bets at online?
Yeah, we got to edit that out.
Is there actually anything? Do you want people to follow you or your projects? Where can they do so?
You can if you want.
I highly suggest, folks. I'm just gonna.
We will link them down below.
They will be linked in the episode description. That is correct.
Yeah. I'm doing this Pure Bliss thing, which is a band thing. A couple songs out on the internet, and then starting March, we'll be doing Beartooth from March until God knows when. So
fair.
So come see a show. Whatever kind of music you like, I probably got you covered.
Honestly, yeah, with the amount of different projects that you have been a part of, there's probably something that someone would like. Actually, I mean, we didn't even talk about the Holy Smokes. Oh
my God. That'll be linked below too.
How did we skip over Topher Greenwood?
Yeah.
And the Holy Smokes. Oh my God. I'll have to edit that in.
Edit it in.
I'll just add a whole Topher song at the end of this episode.
Topher Greenwood.
Dude, thank you for doing this because I know
my pleasure,
I mean, we talked about it off and on this entire episode. I know there's portions of you doing this that you're very much like, oh, fuck, like, why are we talking? Oh, I don't want to say this. I don't have the sound bites. But,
you know, every once in a while, it's good to just step out and do something different, I guess. Like a podcast.
You did say that earlier.
Or play acoustic in the basement of a pizza shop.
See, that's a theme. That's what we call in the biz a through line. And now you brought it full circle.
That's a through line. You'll learn that.
You'll pick that up later. Dude, thank you so much.
My pleasure, man. Till next time.
We did it. We did it. That is a podcast. Okay, big thank you to Will for being down to be on the show, talk the talk, and share his story. Even though he knew he didn't have all the cool one-liners to make the highlight reels, he still made it happen. And you know what? Cool one-liners or not, it was a fun conversation. I'm stoked we got to make it happen. So go check out all that Will does musically. Links to all those things will be in the show notes. I mean it when I said it earlier. That dude has never written a bad song, in my opinion. So be sure to go check it all out. Of course, also make sure to follow the show at WYDH Pod. You can follow me personally again. I am now at Ross Tyson. Subscribe on whatever platform that you check this out on as well. If you're watching on YouTube, which is my channel, youtube.com/Ross Tyson, hit that subscribe button. Same with Apple Podcasts and Spotify. If you want to go the extra mile, leave a star rating and a review, pretty please. And if you really liked what you heard, just tell somebody about it mainly. I mean, tell the internet, feed the machine, toss it on your Instagram story. You know the drill. You know what helps. And it truly does help more than what you may think. And one final reminder as I say goodbye to check out our sponsors from this week and support them. First, Ingram Audio. They're aiming to make your process of making music more simple and streamlined, and they're doing that with their new product, the Producer Kit. So visit ingramaudio.co for purchase details and any other info that you may want. If you're looking for some concerts to go to, though, well, Promo West Productions is bringing you a lot of those your way here in Columbus. Visit promowestlive.com to find all the information you need or to find out what other shows are coming through Columbus, and then go snag your tickets at axs.com. Now, if you're looking for a place to live now or in the future, the place to go is River and Rich. Live in an awesome community, an awesome art-filled area. They've got 1-bed, 2-bed, and townhouse-style apartments. Go set up a tour and check it all out by, of course, just going and visiting them in person, or get all your information from riverandrichcolumbus.com. And a reminder that right now, if you decide to move in, you can use the code WYDHPOD for half off your deposit. And finally, Ope Cold Brew. It's dang good, and it's available in a 4-pack or in a subscription, brought straight to your door. You can place an order and find all that information over at opecoldbrew.com. But that will do it. Guys, thank you so much for listening to another episode, or if it's your first one, thanks for checking it out. I must bid you adieu. Episode 78 is now done and finished. I hope you liked it. But whether you did or whether you didn't, we're 3 years in, and you know we're not stopping now. Because as always, I'll be back next episode with a brand new guest that, well, you may or may not know of, but they'll be sharing a brand new story that you for sure never heard. Good night and goodbye.